There's a number sitting in your investment account right now that will completely change your life. You just don't know what it is yet. Maybe you're at $15,000 and feeling like you're running in place. Or maybe you've hit $50,000 and you're wondering if all this sacrifice is actually worth it. Here's what nobody tells you. Your wealth doesn't grow in a straight line. It explodes in 3 specific moments that most people never see coming. I'm Pot, and I've spent years studying why some people break free financially while others stay trapped in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle forever. And what I've discovered will completely change how you think about building wealth. There are 3 net worth milestones where everything shifts, where your money stops being something you earn and starts being something that works harder than you ever could. The first breakthrough happens at $100,000. The second hits around $650,000. And the third milestone at $1 million doesn't just change your bank account, it changes how you sleep at night. But here's the part that most people get completely wrong. Reaching $100,000 doesn't mean you're 10% of the way to becoming a millionaire. You're actually much closer than that. And this misunderstanding is exactly why so many people quit right before the magic happens. If you want to understand when your net worth finally starts working for you, instead of the other way around, hit that subscribe button and smash the yell. Like, if you're ready to see what's actually possible when you stop guessing and start understanding the math, let me show you where most people go wrong. When you think about saving money, your brain does simple math. Save $10,000, you're $10,000 richer. Save $50,000, you're $50,000 closer to your goal. It's logical, it's predictable, and it's completely wrong. This linear thinking is exactly what keeps people broke. They look at their savings account growing by a few $100s a month and think, at this rate, I'll be 90 years old before I have any real money. So they give up. They buy the new car, they upgrade the house, they convince themselves that building wealth is only for people who started with money. But here's what they're missing. Invested money doesn't sit there doing nothing. It works. It earns returns. And then those returns start earning their own returns. It's not magic, it's mathematics that has been creating millionaires for over a century. We live in a world where everything happens instantly. Food arrives in 30 minutes. Movies stream in seconds. Packages show up the same day you order them. The idea of waiting 20 or 30 years for anything sounds absolutely insane to most people. But that's exactly the difference between people who build wealth and people who spend their entire lives wondering why they can't get ahead. Albert Einstein supposedly called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. Whether he actually said it doesn't matter. What matters is that he was right. Those who understand it build serious wealth over time. Those who don't will work harder and harder while their money sits in checking accounts earning nothing. Here's a reality check. If you put $10,000 in a savings account, earning 0.5% interest in 30 years, you'll have about $11,600. But if you invest that same $10,000 in the stock market, averaging 7% returns, you'll have over $76,000. Same money, same time period, completely different outcome. The people who get rich aren't necessarily smarter or luckier. They just understand something simple: time and consistency beat everything else in wealth building. And there are 3 specific points where this truth becomes impossible to ignore. Let's talk about the first milestone, $100,000. This is where most people's wealth building journey either takes off or it dies completely. And I'm going to show you exactly why with real numbers that might surprise you. Imagine you start investing $500 every month. That's about $125 a week, roughly what most people spend on coffee lunch runs and random Amazon purchases they don't really need. Not impossible for most working adults, but not pocket change either. Now, assuming your investments earn a conservative 7% annual return, which is actually below the historical stock market average, here's what happens. It takes 7 years and 9 months to hit your first $100,000, almost 8 years. Let that sink in. That's longer than it takes to go through high school and college combined. It's enough time to have a baby and watch them start 2nd grade. For most people, that timeline sounds absolutely brutal. And here's what makes it even tougher. During those first 8 years, you're doing most of the heavy lifting. Out of that $100,000, about $46,000 came directly from your own pocket, your monthly contributions. The other $54,000. That's compound interest finally showing up to work. Don't get me wrong, Earning $54,000 while you sleep is incredible, but it doesn't feel life-changing yet. You're still going to your job every day. You're still worried about bills. Nothing has fundamentally shifted in your life. This is exactly where most people make a fatal mistake. They look at those numbers and think, great, I'm 1/10 of the way to $1 million. Only 72 more years to go at this pace. So they quit. They cash out. They convince themselves the system doesn't work. But they're wrong, dead wrong. What they don't realize is that they just completed the hardest part of the entire journey. They've built the foundation that will support everything that comes next. That $100,000 sitting in their account isn't just money. It's a wealth-generating machine that's about to shift into high gear. Think about learning a musical instrument. The first year is frustrating. Your fingers hurt. The sounds coming out are terrible. Progress feels painfully slow. But once you break through that initial barrier, improvement accelerates dramatically. You're not just learning notes anymore, you're making music. Wealth building works the same way. From this point forward, compound interest stops being a side character in your financial story. It becomes the main character. Those investment returns that seemed modest during the first 8 years, they're about to snowball in ways that will genuinely shock you. The next $100,000 doesn't take another 8 years, it takes 5. Let me repeat that because it's critical. You spent nearly 8 years grinding to get from $0 to $100,000. But you'll only need 5 more years to double it to $200,000. This isn't a trick. This isn't some get-rich-quick scheme. This is just math doing what math does when you give it enough time to work. Now we're at year 13 of your investment journey, and you're sitting at $200,000. Here's where the math starts getting really interesting. You've personally contributed about $78,000 through your monthly investments. But your account shows $200,000. That means $122,000 came from pure investment growth. Your money has been quietly multiplying in the background, and suddenly those gains are becoming substantial. But the acceleration doesn't stop there. Watch what happens next. By year 18, you hit $400,000. You've contributed roughly $108,000 of your own money over those 18 years. The remaining $292,000, nearly 3/4 of your total wealth, came from compound interest doing its thing. Let's pause and think about what this means in real terms. You're now earning approximately $28,000 per year just from investment returns, without doing anything, without a boss, without commuting or meetings or office politics. Remember how long it took you to save your first $100,000. Now you're generating more than 1/4 of that amount annually while you sleep. This is the snowball effect everyone talks about, but most people never actually experience because they quit too early. Here's the perfect analogy. Imagine pushing a massive boulder up a steep hill. The beginning is exhausting. Every inch forward requires maximum effort. Your muscles burn. You're sweating. You're questioning if you'll ever reach the top. But once you finally crest that hill and the boulder starts rolling downhill, everything changes. Gravity takes over. Momentum builds. That same boulder that required all your strength to move uphill is now rolling faster and faster, and you're basically just trying to stay out of its way. That first $100,000 is you pushing the boulder uphill. Everything after that, the boulder is rolling on its own. At $400,000, something psychological shifts too. You stop thinking like a saver and start thinking like an investor. You're not just stashing money away anymore, you're watching your wealth compound in real time. You start understanding why wealthy people obsess over percentages and returns instead of just salary increases. A 10% return on $400,000 is $40,000. That's more than many people earn in an entire year of working full-time. And you earned it by simply staying invested and letting time do the work. This is when most people start breathing a little easier. The finish line to that next major milestone, $650,000, is visible now. And unlike those grueling first 8 years, you can actually see your wealth growing month by month in meaningful amounts. The journey from $400,000 to $650,000 takes just another 4 years. 22 years total to reach a number that will fundamentally change your relationship with money and work forever. This is where things get life-changing. You've reached $650,000, and this milestone represents something most people never truly understand until they experience it firsthand: financial breathing room. Let me put this in perspective with real numbers. The median household income in the United States hit $83,730 in 2024. That's what the average American family earns by trading their time, energy, and freedom to an employer for an entire year. But with $650,000 invested at an 8% annual return, you're generating $52,000 in passive income every single year, without setting an alarm, without asking for time off, without worrying if your boss is in a bad mood. Now, that's not quite matching the full median income yet. You'd need closer to $1 million at 8% to hit that $83,730 mark. But $52,000 in passive income is substantial enough to completely transform your financial situation. Here's what this actually means for your life. Losing your job stops being a catastrophe and becomes an inconvenience. Getting sick doesn't mean financial devastation. You have options that simply don't exist for people living paycheck to paycheck. Think about that for a second. Most Americans are one medical emergency or one layoff away from financial ruin. But you're generating enough passive income to cover rent, groceries, utilities, and basic living expenses without lifting a finger. This is where your relationship with risk completely changes. Want to start that business you've been dreaming about but were too scared to pursue? Now you can. Your investments are covering your baseline expenses so you can afford to take that entrepreneurial leap without the crushing pressure of immediate returns. Maybe you want to go back to school or learn a new skill that could boost your earning potential long term. When you're not worried about making next month's rent, you can invest in yourself without the anxiety. Or perhaps you just want to travel and see the world while you're still young enough to enjoy it. With your money working for you, you're not postponing your dreams until some mythical retirement age when you might be too old or too sick to live them. Here's the smart play at this level. If you're earning 8 to 9% returns annually, but only living off 6 to 7% of your portfolio's value, the remaining growth helps your investments keep pace with inflation. Your principal gradually increases, which means your passive income gradually increases too. You're not just maintaining your purchasing power, you're actually growing it. This is what real wealth looks like. Not fancy cars or designer clothes, freedom, choices, the ability to say no to what doesn't serve you and yes to what does. Year 29. You wake up, check your investment account, and see 7 figures staring back at you. You've hit $1 million. Here's the weird part, you probably won't feel rich. With inflation making $1 million feel more like what $500,000 used to represent, you're not exactly buying yachts or private islands. But you will feel something far more valuable than rich. You'll feel validated. You've proven that building wealth isn't just for trust fund babies or people who got lucky with Bitcoin. As a regular person with a regular salary, you've demonstrated that the system actually works if you have the discipline to stick with it. But the real transformation isn't in your bank account, it's in your brain. With $1 million invested properly, you're generating $40,000 to $50,000 per year in passive income at current rates. And here's the kicker, add Social Security benefits into the mix. The average benefit in 2024 was around $2,000 per month, or $24,000 annually. Suddenly, you're looking at $64,000 to $74,000 in total annual income without working a single day. That's genuinely liberating in ways people who haven't experienced it simply cannot comprehend. The fear of financial catastrophe doesn't disappear completely, but it shrinks to manageable levels. You're not going to end up destitute in your old age. That anxiety that keeps most Americans awake at night, gone. Now doors start opening that were previously locked. Always wanted to angel invest in startup companies, but never had the capital. Now you do. Dreamed of buying rental properties, but couldn't qualify for the loans. Your net worth changes that conversation completely. But here's where people make a critical mistake. They get comfortable. They've achieved what they thought was impossible, so they ease up on the discipline that got them there. They start spending more. They stop contributing. They coast. Big mistake. Because here's what most people don't realize. Going from $0 to $1 million is actually harder than going from $1 million to $2 million. You only need your portfolio to grow by 50% to hit $1.5 million that can happen in just a few good market years. To reach $2 million, you only need it a double, which historically happens every 7 to 10 years depending on market performance. From $2 million to $3 million, just a 50% increase. From $3 million to $4 million, only 33%. Each subsequent million becomes easier and easier if you maintain the financial discipline that got you there in the first place. This is where wealthy people start thinking differently. Every dollar isn't just money, it's potential growth. And that mindset influences every financial decision from here on out. Now I know what you're thinking. Pock, this all sounds great on paper, but what about market crashes? What if the economy tanks right when I need the money? Most fair questions. Let's address them. Here's what most people don't understand about market downturns. If you're consistently investing over decades, crashes actually help you build wealth faster. When stock prices drop your monthly $500 contributions, buy more shares. When the market inevitably recovers, and it always has historically, those extra shares you picked up during the downturn become incredibly valuable. Think of it like shopping. If your favorite store has a 40% off sale, you don't panic and stop shopping. You buy more because everything's cheaper. The stock market works the same way. Market crashes are sales for long-term investors. This strategy is called dollar cost averaging, and it's your secret weapon. You're not trying to time the market or pick the perfect moment to invest. You're just consistently buying whether prices are up or down. Over 20 to 30 years, those market crashes become opportunities, not disasters. But let's be brutally honest about the reality here. This requires patience that our instant gratification culture doesn't exactly celebrate. We're talking about 20, 25, maybe 30 years of consistent investing. That's not sexy. That's not exciting. You can't brag about it at parties. But it works. The math doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care if you're bored or impatient. Compound interest will do its job. If you do yours, invest consistently and don't touch it. Now, should you diversify? Absolutely. Don't put everything in one stock or one sector. Spread it across index funds, bonds, maybe some international exposure. The safer your withdrawal rate, pulling out 4% or less annually in retirement, the better your chances of never running out of money. And yes, you need to account for inflation. But if you're generating 8 to 9% returns and only living off 6 to 7% of your portfolio's value, the remaining growth keeps your purchasing power intact. The real question isn't whether this strategy works. History has proven it does. The real question is, do you have the discipline to stick with it even when it's boring? Even when your friends are buying new cars and taking expensive vacations while you're investing $500 a month? That's what separates people who build wealth from people who wonder where all their money went. So there you have it. 3 tipping points that transform your net worth from a slow crawl into an unstoppable force. $100,000 where compound interest finally wakes up and starts pulling its weight. The hardest milestone, but also the foundation for everything that follows. $650,000 where your money generates enough passive income to change your entire financial security. Where losing a job becomes an inconvenience instead of a catastrophe. And $1 million where you realize you've basically won the financial game that most people don't even know they're playing. The math doesn't lie. It never has, even if it requires more patience than our microwave culture typically appreciates. Here's the brutal truth. 29 years from now, you're going to be 29 years older whether you start investing today or not. Time passes either way. The only question is whether you'll be thanking yourself for starting or wondering what could have been. You can spend the next 3 decades making excuses about why you can't invest $500 a month. Or you can adjust your lifestyle, cut the subscriptions you don't use, skip the daily $7 lattes, and actually build something that lasts. The choice is yours. But the math is just sitting here, waiting for you to get started. What's it going to be? And I am Pot Wall Street.